Hello and welcome to the One-Eyed Fan, where we discuss AFL topics from a biased perspective. With me is Grillsy, a reformed Eagle. Say g'day, Grillsy.
G'day, Grillsy.
and we've got Langers, the unbiased pie.
Yeah, g'day guys, how are you?
Good, and I am the Fig Man, and I support the greatest team of all, the Cats. With the first week of the finals over, we've seen some game-changing performances along with some absolute shockers. Finals football is what every player strives to and is what reputations are built on. So today we're going to discuss the best and worst individual finals performances of the weekend. We'll be creating an award for both to determine the best and worst player of the 2017 final series. We're announcing the winner after the grand final, where legends both good and bad are made. Now, to open the discussion, I've got a very happy Eagles supporter. Grillsy, who are your three top performers of the first week of the finals?
Okay, the first week of the finals are done and dusted. We've got one team that's shone up above all, the mighty West Coast. Given no chance, written off, but what did they do? We've all seen it, and here's the best for the weekend. Obviously, being an Eagles fan, I gave one vote to Drew Petrie. His performance in the ruck and around the ground against Patrick Ryder was outstanding. He put Ryder to shame. Two votes was Dustin Martin. That Friday night game against Geelong, he tore him a new one. And my three votes, the best player for the weekend, none other than Luke Shuey. He was everything. Two goals, after the side in extra time, never done before. He was the man.
Well, Langers, we've got Grillsy's pretty biased opinion there. What do you think?
Yeah, well, look, well, you can't be wrong. Some great choices there. Look, obviously, being a mad pie and Collingwood not being in the finals, I have a little bit more of a unbiased approach. And look, considering the weekend's games, I think my number three. Look, I'm actually going to give it to Dion Prestia. A lot of people were talking about Dusty. And there's always been a lot of focus around Dusty and his ability to push off players and have that impact going forward. But Prestia, 31 disposals on the weekend, and he's just an absolute nugget. I probably think he doesn't get the credit he deserves in that team. So I've picked him as opposed to Dustin Martin. My number two, it actually goes to, look, a lot of people are going to go Josh Kennedy. 2 goals, a bit of a stellar performance, but don't discount what Luke Parker did on the weekend. He actually piled more kicks and more tackles than Josh Kennedy, and probably got the bridesmaid role in the end. But I actually think he did a bit better. And look, being a power forward myself, there's nothing more than you like to see than a forward absolutely dragging a team almost to victory. But for very much of the first half against West Coast, Charlie Dixon, by his own backing, was taking on West Coast and eventually brought the rest of the team into the game. And if it hadn't have been for his efforts, admittedly, 3 goals, 6 could have been a vastly different story. But his impact and his X factor during that first half kept Port Adelaide in the game to eventually lose by a contentious decision, but I guess it was there.
No worries. Thanks, Langers. Well, I agree with on some stages there with you, Grillsy. When it comes to Charlie Dixon, I think that 3 goals, 6 was a disgrace and actually cost them the game. If he had a kick straight, Langers, I was thinking about this while I was watching the game last night. He would have been my number one for the weekend if he had a kick straight. But for me, he lost the game. But for me, I thought that Eddie, for one vote, I had Eddie Betts. His 3 goals in the first half was electrifying. His ability to win the footy contested, his agility, some of the stuff he did was unbelievable, and it put the game beyond the GWS. Before the Crows took the pedal off in the second half. 2 votes was Luke Shuey. He was brilliant all night. 2 goals for the game, and the sealer underneath that sort of pressure that he was under. And to win that hard ball to create the opportunity was fantastic as well. And the 3 votes was Dusty. unbelievable. Once Cam Guthrie went off him, of course, I let Cam had him early in the game. We can't help that. And just after Cam Guthrie went off him, Geelong just had no answers, and was the difference between the two teams in the end. His ability to finish in that last quarter, he just took the game by the scruff of the neck, and that's where the game was won for me. All right, so next we've got our three worst performers of the weekend. So, Langers, you can kick this off. What have you got for us?
Absolutely, mate. Look, I think coming out of the first game, I think for the capability that this player has and being withheld to less than 7 disposals, my number 3 was Jeremy Cameron from GWS. Quite a mobile and elite player. Just absolutely had no answer on the night. Second of all, once again, the capability of Jordan Murdoch. You know, he had barely any impact or any influence in the game whatsoever. Look, along with a number of other Cat supporters, so you could probably throw a few of them into the top 3. But I think my number 1 worst player for the weekend absolutely had no answer all night. He was not at his All-Australian best by far, but Paddy Ryder, an absolute shocker. He came over from Essendon and he's adopted that Port Adelaide choke ability in big games. So there's my worst 3.
All right. Thanks, Langers. Grillsy, what do you got for us?
My worst 3 for the week, well, I had 1 vote for Paddy Ryder. He absolutely stunk it up against a ruckless West Coast outfit. I just went to Shane Mumford from GWS. I thought his performance, well, I've watched him quite a few times this year. He's normally hard and tough as nails. It was just lifeless. I'm flabbergasted by that performance. And my 3 votes was Charles Selwood for obvious reasons. He came back probably too soon.
You're kidding.
I thought, and was clearly underdone, and that's the week.
Joel Selwood, that's a disgraceful call. Anyway, so for me, I agree on again with you, girls, on one of them. But to start off with, I had Daniel Rioli. He put in a very ordinary performance. It was playing on such an inexperienced Zach Guthrie that was playing on a first season player in Zach Guthrie, who is built like a stick and was just terrible. Next, Mark Lacroix. He was hardly seen all night and made ridiculous errors when the game was up for grabs in the last quarter. And that awful kick off the ground while streaming towards an open goal was probably the worst individual effort of the weekend. However, I agree. Someone that was supposed to impact with his physical presence, Shane Mumford, with 2 disposals after playing the majority of the game and not taking a single mark at his size, was absolutely disgusting and the clear standout for me. So there we have it. That's our best and worst performers of the weekend. And now, fellas, we're going to create an award. So we need to name the award after someone for the worst performer of the finals. Langers has come up with the 3 of the worst AFL finals performances of the AFL era. Take it away, Langers.
All right. So here is an example of my unbiasedness, and I've done this somewhat deliberately here, but I think I've got to give 3 votes to Jason Cloke in the 2002 grand final. A lot of hype coming out of the Cloke camp, a lot of hype coming out of Collingwood, and Jason Cloke just absolutely did nothing. So there you are, attacking one of my own, but it must be said. Now, my second in worst grand final history, I think I have to give it to Alistair Lynch in the 2004 grand final. Brisbane going on for a 4-peat. Alistair Lynch, their pinnacle with a young Jonathan Brown up the ground. But Alistair Lynch, with only playing half a game of football, managed to only get 2 disposals, and they were handballs. Absolutely did nothing for that team, and they got absolutely rolled. Now, my number 1 worst in grand final history, and I think this goes without saying, it came in the 2011 grand final in the form of Meatloaf. And I don't think there's been a stinker, an absolute stinker since.
Well,
that's my top three.
Thanks, Langers, and I like the obscurity there. It's fantastic. Thanks very much. Grillsy, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Matt. That's a very rare get, but it's a good one. I think it's about a young Cameron Mooney out of us at the North Melbourne side there. He had a big one handball for the whole grand final. But that's definitely worthy of a mention.
Yep. And anyone else?
No one else came to mind. I agree with the other two.
Okay, so with that, I think Cam Mooney, although it was a pretty ordinary performance, he stepped up in the 2007 grand final and the 2009 grand final. So I think that expels him from worst performer in finals. He was fantastic for the Cats. For me, Justin Westhoff, his 2007 grand final against the Cats was just terrible. Along with the Port Adelaide side, getting beaten by a record margin, which is probably the most insipid performance in AFL of 127 points. And Justin Westhoff was regarded as the X factor that the Cats would not contain. It was terrible. Next, the St Kilda Football Club. They've had 4 grand finals, 3 losses and a draw. They choked against the Crows and the Cats after having leads and control of both games at certain stages. They choked against the Pies after the huge Goddard mark, where they had all the momentum. And then the replay was an absolute debacle. It was a train crash. It was terrible. However, Neon Leon Davis, his grand final matches have been by far the worst. He is soft at the contest, barely touched the footy, culminating in being dropped for the 2010 replay. He's lucky to have this award named after him. I cannot see anyone in the future rivaling his terrible grand final record. Okay, now we'll move on to our best finals performers of the AFL era. This September, if you like. And I think dual Norm Smith medalist Luke Hodge has to be considered. Although he was quite lucky in 2007 with Gary Ablett being clearly BOG in a losing side. Clark Keating, the Lions ruckman, is remembered specifically for his performances in the 2001, 2 and 3 grand finals. He was brought in towards the end of the season after playing, half and half of the season and was brought in as a September specialist. But for me, Jimmy Bartel, flawless in the 2007 premiership at 100% efficiency. He shut down a raging Lenny Hayes in 2009 and was Norm Smith medalist playing at centre-half forward after Podsy Adley broke down. Being able to play a variety of roles rather than getting cheap kicks in the back half puts Bartel as the AFL era best finals player. It is a no-brainer. Grillsy, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to have to repeat every single one of those statements. I think you've overlooked the shining light. I'll begin with one Adelaide player, former Hawthorn player, went to Adelaide, named Darren Jarman. I think he epitomises everything. Did the love. Another player that he failed to mention used to run around in the old number 30 jumper for West Coast, Peter Matera. His 1992 final series was best on ground in every game. It was a sight to behold. 25 touches and 3 goals against Hawthorn in his first final. Went to play against Geelong in the next one at 35 touches from the wing, kicked a couple of goals. Made it to grand final day, and what did he do? I just made 5 goals from the wing, first time it's been done in AFL. What more can you say from the great man? And then my last one was, Andrew McLeod. Yes, Andrew McLeod. Another Adelaide player I know, but geez, some finals, and he was a key member. How many Norm Smith medals did he win again?
Yeah, 2 as well.
2, yeah.
You got a couple.
Fantastic. Awesome. Good selections there too, Grillsy. I think they're very reasonable to throw up as well. Langers, what do you think?
Mate, I've gone through a bit of an array here, and I've had to dig into the archives of my vast memory. But coming in 3 for me. Now I've met this man. I've shaken hands with him, and I dead set believe it's like shaking a cloud. But Simon Black, 39 disposals, 9 tackles in the 03 Grand Final. I don't think you'll ever see a more dominant performance or as much presence into a Grand Final, other than my number one, of course, which is coming up. My number 2, though, I sat down in the 08 Grand Final and I picked this at half-time that Brad Sewell would be the Norm Smith. Now, he didn't get it. Luke Hodge got it. But I don't think Hodge had the impact that Brad Sewell did when the game was up for grabs.
I agree.
When the game was a bit over in the last quarter, then Hodge started to rack up a few more of those touches. It got his stats up. He looked good. He got a couple of goals. But Brad Sewell, I think he got overlooked wrongfully, and he was my 08 Norm Smith for the work that he did in and under. So, all you Hawthorn supporters, that's the only nice thing I'll ever say about your club. But number 1, now this is quite a contentious call, but Nathan Buckley, 2002 Grand Final in a loss, walks away with the Norm Smith medal because he clearly was the best player on the field on the day. 32 touches, 28 of those were kicks. Just shows his dominance by foot. Had a few tackles. He ran half a marathon. Just unfortunately couldn't run Collingwood over the line. But there you have it, mate. My best in a GF.
Well, so much for being the unbiased pie there, Langers. That one can be refuted forever.
Yeah, erroneous.
Well, thanks, guys. We're just about out of time. So can I get your Grand Final participants and premiership tips, please? Langers, what do you think?
Look, I think... Look, for the weekend, I'm going to say the Cats over the Swans. I think they're going to bounce back remarkably after an absolute shellacking. GWS, I think, are going to get the chocolates as well. But look, given that I've spent a fair few years singing "We're from Tigerland" with a club up in Townsville. I'm going to say that Richmond are going to be in the Grand Final. I'm not sure who the other opponent is. I can't make up my mind on that, but I think that is going to be raining black and yellow.
Righto, thanks, Langers. But I would like you to jump off the fence and give us your other one because there's no fence sitting in the as a one-eyed fan.
Yeah, toss of a coin, mate. I'm unbiased here. That's the whole point of my name.
Right. So we've got Richmond.
Consider us in the title.
Richmond in the field for Langers. What about you, Grillsy?
Yeah.
Look, I'd love a fairy tale in West Coast to go all the way because it would be a better story than the Bulldogs from last year, where we've come from. But realistically, it'll be a Sydney and Richmond Grand Final. And I hate to say this because we'll never hear the end of it in Melbourne, but Richmond will take it out.
Right, thanks, mate. And for me, I think it's a lock now. Geelong and Richmond on different sides of the draw. It's definitely going to be a Geelong-Richmond premiership battle. And with the dominance that the Cats have shown over Richmond for so long now, that was just a blip on the radar, and the Cats will bounce back and smash them to pieces in the Grand Final. Okay, so there you have it. We've had our best and worst finals players of the weekend and the finals era and our premiership fancies for this year. Do you agree with our biased opinions? Either way, we would love your feedback. So please leave a comment below. If you'd like to hear more from the One-Eyed Fan, don't forget to subscribe below and link and share our Facebook page. We'll be back next week for more biased views. And as we say here at the One-Eyed Fan, if you're not one-eyed, you're not a fan.